All right, it is 6 o'clock, so let's get started. So first off, I just want to welcome everyone on behalf of San Gabriel Valley Habitat for Humanity. My name is Brianna Lopez. I'm the Volunteer Program Coordinator, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to our Women Build a Better World web series. So tonight we'll be interviewing the wonderful Velma De La Rosa. She's a consultant and intern executive director at La Casa de la San Gabriel Community Center. Our webinar series is a part of our Women Build program, and Women Build is a movement that empowers women and their allies to envision a better future where everyone has a safe place to call home. Every year, the Women Build movement brings women together to raise funds, to recruit their friends, and to build homes side by side with women in need of affordable housing. This year, we've taken our movement to the next level by adding this webinar series that features courageous women, such as our guest speaker tonight, leaders tackling some of the most difficult issues in our community, and as a result, making our world a better place. So we'll be taking questions from the audience tonight, so please be sure to send them to Steve Gomez. He's our Marketing and Communications Manager through the chat box. So to get us started, I would like to introduce our very own Dr. Leah Schuler. She is the Volunteer Programs Manager here at San Gabriel Valley Habitat. So Dr. Schuler oversees the organization's $10,000 volunteer goal, the AmeriCorps program, and Women Build. She, while also assisting the Resource Development Team in raising $1.24 million in donated funds this year. Leah holds a Doctorate of Education degree from the University of Southern California and a Master's of Education degree from the University of Maryland, College Park. Her research focuses on strategic planning effectiveness, and she is a chapter author for the seminar Higher Education book, Student Engagement in Higher Education. She brings over 20 years of experience working with college students to her volunteer manager role, focusing on designing meaningful experiences for individuals and group volunteers. So without further ado, please take it away, Leah.
Thanks so much, Brianna. It is my pleasure to introduce you all to the amazing Velma De La Rosa. Velma is currently the Interim Executive Director of La Casa de San Gabriel Community Center, a public nonprofit dedicated to serving the multicultural community of San Gabriel and its surrounding areas. Velma is a skilled executive with over 20 years of corporate, public, and nonprofit sector experience developing partnerships, implementing strategic initiatives, and innovative programs to address the needs of targeted communities and populations at local, national, and global levels. Velma's unique experience has provided her many opportunities to collaborate across various sectors for the greater good, a greater impact, and making communities better. She has built a successful and progressive career through her employment with major utilities, such as the City of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, global corporations such as Citigroup and the Telecu Education Foundation, a national nonprofit organization. Velma is active with organizations promoting greater access to education, the advancement of women and families, and leadership development. She served on the board of Comisión Femenil de Los Ángeles, an organization geared towards the political and economic empowerment of Hispanic women, and the National Latina Business Women Association of Los Angeles, an organization that supports Latinas to develop their business and professional acumen to achieve their career goals. She has also served on the Hearthstone Housing Foundation Board, a national nonprofit dedicated to providing service-enriched affordable housing. She received her Bachelor of Science in Management from Pepperdine University and is currently a fellow in the Latina Global Executive Leadership Institute at USC. Velma is a lifelong Californian. She's the mother of 4 young men and probably a pretty tired grandmother of 2. So Velma, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So your story is fascinating and I can't wait to have the audience learn all about you. Tell us about where you grew up and what was home like for you.
Growing up, I grew up in back then it was South Central LA. After the civil disturbances, it was South LA, but I grew up there, and over the years have seen the demographics change, but I come from a home with two hardworking parents. They had minimum wage paying jobs, and like that, I don't know how they did it, but they bought their first home and they put us in private school. At home, education was very important, and so my mom really prided herself in being able to put us in Catholic school. So home life was good. I would have to say for the most part it was. There was a strong work ethic that was shared by our parents by example, and food was important. And I'll share this with you because I think it's influenced how I see things today. And going to the grocery store was a big deal at home. After church, we would go to the grocery store and we were all dressed up. But it was a family affair, you know, choosing the veggies, choosing everything. It was really exciting. And anyway, today when I see so many families with family insecurity, it really breaks my heart because for me, it wasn't there. Even though we were a low-income family, and it's sad to know that families are struggling with that today. No child should be going hungry right now.
No, agreed. And so that makes me think about what La Casa had, how have you responded as a community center to COVID-19?
Well, right before COVID started, La Casa has been primarily opening or operating a preschool. And so providing wraparound services for those students. There was a pantry that would assist the families of the students that were going there. There's a partnership with Pillows and Plenty that provides clothing. There's referral services to counseling. And so when COVID happened, the preschool closed, but the need for services didn't stop. And so we responded to the need for food. And so we started by first focusing on the children that were going to preschool and the fact that they were now home and perhaps not getting the meals that they were at school. So we were calling the parents to let them know we had food. And with that, we began campaigns with our donors. We would receive calls to ask us what was it that was needed. And we would say food. We put a list together, thinking about children in mind. And so over these last almost 6 months, it's gone from providing food for 5 families to now over 100. And we started with children in mind, but now 30% of the people that go, 35, are seniors. And we would receive calls from the school districts because they have the grab and go and you have to drive by and you're able to get a meal. Well, a lot of families don't have cars or they don't drive. And some of the children are taken care of by the grandparents. So we received calls to see if we would make the food available for families who were within walking distance. That way they would still have access to some food. So that's how we responded by pivoting from preschool to community needs with a focus on children, now on seniors. And it's an effort. We couldn't do this without the volunteers. So the food is packed and bagged by volunteers. It's distributed by volunteers. And I have to give a shout out to San Gabriel Habitat. For 2 months, you allowed your drivers to go to the LA Regional Food Bank and pick up food that we would be able to distribute, and it made a huge difference. It was like Christmas. The volunteers, they're like, are they on their way? Are they on their way? And they would see the truck pull up and we would go to the door because we wanted to see what they were able to get. And the gentlemen were great. Frankie would call excited, I'm on my way. I was able to get watermelons, or I was able to get oranges. And so it became a community affair. And I think that's one of the things that's come out of this COVID. It's just an increase in longing for community and how to help and how to make a difference. So I think that was a long answer to a short question, right?
No, it was a great answer because, and thank you for mentioning us. Yes, we, and for folks out in the audience who don't know, it is because of this partnership and because of COVID-19 that our two nonprofits were able to join together and be supportive. And this has always been, I think, something that, San Gabriel Valley Habitat and La Casa, want to promote, is us helping each other because we can do so much more, right, when we work together.
Yes.
And so what allowed La Casa to be able to pivot? I think that's been a really big buzzword for COVID-19. How were you able to how were you able to so quickly pivot to go from education and feeding 5 to feeding hundreds and focusing on food insecurity for your families that you're serving?
Again, right before COVID, the board had been having conversations about what did the next era or the next phase of La Casa look like. And we had conversations about the mission statement and how the preschool was just one piece of the mission statement. And so as the calls came in about people needing food, I don't think that we had a chance to really think about it. It's more about how do we meet that need? And if we're here to really serve the community, what can we do? And the chairwoman of the board, Jane Vasquez, La Casa has a great group of supporters. Right away says, well, we can call this person to do donations and we can call that. So connections started being made. But then there was also outreach from partners wanting to know how they could help. And so the food that has been provided for the last 6 months has all come from donations. One of the major organizations that has provided a lot is the Way Church. But we also have Faith Fellowship. And then just recently, Grocery Store Bargain Market designated us as a recipient of their food drive during the month of July. They had their Independence from Hunger campaign. And so I think it's a combination. It's just gotten momentum. And it's really, I have to say, beautiful. When you go to La Casa, just the energy, the love the volunteers have for their fellow human beings, how we just come together and work together, and everyone rolls up their sleeves. Some volunteers gather food from their church members and bring it over. Others do drives, like the Rotarians and the Kiwanis from San Gabriel. Not the food drive, but they're doing a drive to provide supplies for the children at the preschool. So I think it's sort of organically or somehow just evolved, and it's God's work every week when we come together, and from what seems a little, we're able to make a lot. And one of the things that I share with the volunteers is, for me, it's 3 values, sort of to give us a focus or a guide as to how we do this work. One, it's treating the families with dignity. It's, I think, unfortunate enough that they have to come in and stand in line. And so there's no need to make that a bigger deal. So it's treating them with dignity. One of our volunteers, we have a volunteer that comes and cleans up the grounds and blows the leaves off and picks up trash. And so it goes to, he goes, you know what, it's bad enough they have to stand in line in the heat. We need to at least make it clean and pleasant for them. And so that's the kind of heart that our volunteers have. So one is treating people with dignity. Number two, it's sharing and providing food that we would put on the table for our families, and that's important. And then lastly, going back to my experience as a child, where we would look forward to go to the grocery stores, I want the families to look forward to come, because they're going to receive something to take home to their families. And sometimes we get treats, and so I just think about the children wondering, are we going to get cookies or snacks when their parents come home? But it's evolved, and I think that the spirit of goodwill, the spirit of love for our fellow human beings, has really just been present with the volunteers and kept them going. That's how we pivoted.
Oh, so it sounds like, I mean, it feels like, or from the outside, that it happened very quickly. But you're saying it was an evolution, but maybe it was a very fast evolution.
Very fast evolution. Yes.
Yeah,
people just stepped up to the occasion, and so again, I think it just inspires others to come and want to be able to do something too, and be able to help.
Well, and clearly you've shown us, whether it be volunteering or being the interim CEO, that it really takes a servant's heart to work in nonprofit. And so how did you learn about La Casa, and what compelled you to say, I need to be its interim CEO or its interim executive director?
Okay. I met one of the board members, and she happens to be the mayor of the city of San Gabriel, Mayor Denise Menchaca. And we were at an event and networking and having conversations. And I was with an organization that was based in Sacramento. And even though I had considered moving to Sacramento, I reconsidered. And so I shared with her that I was looking for opportunities to stay home. And so she talked to me about La Casa, and she said, why don't you just, come and visit and get a tour? And I did. And there's a charm. I don't know how to explain it, but it has a charm, and I liked it. And then we spoke more, and I met with some of the other board members, and the conversation on the table was, what did La Casa need for its next phase? It had been a preschool, but it had been so much more before. And so the thought of maybe La Casa not existed, I'm like, sure. So I started off as a consultant, really looking at what they were doing, best practices, what worked, what didn't, and building a strategic plan for them, for the board, on what it would take to go to the next level. And so with that, COVID happened, and you don't just walk away. It's like, if you see a house burning, you don't just walk by it. You get the bucket of water and you throw water, you get a water hose. And so COVID happened, and people needed food. There was food scarcity. And so, and I've been there, and you don't just walk away. And so it's been working with them, and we have plans to reopen the preschool. Mm-hmm. And so working through that, doing it in a way that is safe for the children, for the staff, for the families. So, yeah, so I'm there. La Casa is special.
It certainly is. And what, with the school year starting, what opportunities, what challenges is that presenting for La Casa? Like, what all is going into your thinking about, come fall, what are we going to do?
So again, it's figuring out how to to provide the academic and social development that the children need when they're in preschool, but doing it in a way where we're not doing it jeopardizing their health or the health of their family members at home. Children are more resilient, but they can take it home, and many of them are taken care of by grandparents. So it's been looking at what we need to do. And so we've been looking at our facilities, and we need carpet removed from the classrooms. We have to change the operations model where instead of children all playing together, now they're going to be units, and the groups are going to be staggered, and there's the no sharing. Now children are not being so much encouraged to share, but not to share. It's figuring all of that out, but with COVID, I would say across the board, there are additional expenses with operating, with sanitizers, with disinfectants, with just having to clean more. We're going to go to disposable plates. And so it's figuring it out, and doing it in a way where we can provide a place where children can continue to learn in a way that we don't expose them to COVID and they don't take it home. But there's work to be done. And again, we've been fortunate where there's some early childhood specialists who've been able to review our plans, to give us input, and allow us to have a good level of confidence about reopening.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's amazing that you've been able to get these experts, right, to come in and to help form or inform, those decisions that, or to applaud, right, those decisions that you're going to be making. And so, wow, that I can't even imagine. I think it'd be very overwhelming. So I'm glad it's, someone like you with your level of education and compassion and again, that servant's heart that is coming out. So, which makes me think about your fascinating career journey. With our Women Build, movement, and through Women Build a Better World, we've been asking our guests to tell us about, their journey. And I am just fascinated by anyone who goes from, corporate to nonprofit. And so tell us about that journey. How did you get to where you are now?
I have to say that if I had planned it, it probably wouldn't have worked that way. No, I would say that the common thread within all of the jobs I've had have had an element of community engagement. And so in one of my positions at DWP, worked in procurement, how to do outreach to small businesses and help them get contracts with DWP. Then there, I chaired the Affirmative Action Advisory Council for the entire Department of Water and Power. And the lady who was the liaison between the board and all of the affinity groups at DWP had a nonprofit that did affordable housing. So back when deregulation was talked about with the electricity, the Department of Water and Power had a downsizing plan. And so I had determined at that time civil service wasn't for me. And so in the sense of working for the public utility.
Okay.
And so I went to work with this nonprofit, New Economics for Women, and they built affordable housing with supportive services on site. The way they would describe it, it was that transitional housing. So it's bringing in low-income families, equipping them with tools, education, resources, so that over a couple of years, they would transition out into being able to rent or to own a home. And so there I was their director of development, their home ownership programs. And that experience caught the attention of a gentleman at City Citibank who needed someone to work the other end at the bank. And so I was recruited, and there I go. And so I was able to work on the other side, partnerships with nonprofits to help low-income families get into home ownership. And then the role expanded to include economic development, small business lending. It went then from state to national, and then transitioned more into developing program models that could be replicated in different footprints of the bank. And again, all with community and doing capacity building for the nonprofits, doing homeownership programs, supporting scholarship programs. And so went from a national to the global consumer group, so a global footprint. And then one of our national partners tapped me on the shoulder, and it was Teleku. And when I was with Citi, I understood what they were about. They did development, so was able to connect them with the commercial lending department, and they did home ownership, so connected them with the home lending department. Then they had a bank or a CDFI and was able to get them a line of credit. But the most important one was they wanted to increase the pipeline of Latinos in corporate, so that there would be a pipeline of individuals who could go into leadership positions, get on corporate boards. And so Citi funded it for a couple of million. And so I was able to get the program up and running, and it was funded for over 10 years. And so they said, we think you understand what we're about, and we think it would be great if you could come and run our foundation. And so I did. And throughout my career, I was always doing volunteer work on the side with organizations, raising money for scholarship, doing mentoring, doing college preparedness. And so I have this opportunity here for a dream job where I'm going to do what I'm very passionate about, education. And I was there for 10 years. And so I enjoyed it. So again, it's sort of one led to the other. And family situations changed, and so felt that I needed to be more at home for my youngest son, had more needs. So looking for a job that would give me some flexibility to take care of him, but still continuing to do work that I like to do. Right. And so right now I'm at La Casa, and I'm happy at La Casa, and wanna put it on its way to its next phase to have a greater impact.
Fantastic. And what is your vision as the interim executive director? What is it going to take? What is your vision, and how are you going to put that together to make that happen?
My vision is it's already a landmark, I think, in San Gabriel. It's an icon for being an agency that provides services to the community. And so it's about reestablishing that connection with community beyond preschool. The demographics have changed in that community, so it's better understanding who is the community that surrounds La Casa and what is it that they need. So right now when people come for food at the pantry for the distribution, we have a weekly census form. So it's not about qualifying, but we get their name, their address, and we have questions about, do you need help with rent? Do you need assistance with housing? Do you need health care? So we've been asking questions that will help us develop a profile that identifies the needs of that community. And so with that, it's identifying 3 areas that continue to be common with them, mm-hmm. and then look for partnerships where we can address that. So with food, the food pantry, that could be part of our health and wellness, where we provide healthy food, but perhaps we also have a small farmers market, and we bring in partners to do cooking classes. Maybe it's learning how to cook differently and cook healthier. With our students and the youth, right now we have like the boys and girls, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, all do different projects around La Casa and for La Casa. So it's taking that a step further where maybe there's a youth development program and possibly partner with other organizations in San Gabriel to address the needs of the youth. And so things like that. One thing that the Casa has done, I think, is they've been giving out the fish and not always teaching families how to fish. And so it's looking at what we do and how we do it and how can we do it in a way that's more empowering for our families. So it's teaching them how to fish, how to apply for lower rates with their utilities, how to apply for Cover California, you know, civic engagement. That's the other piece. With our food distribution, we do distribution of information. So we just did flyers for rent assistance. We've done flyers for rent, for the census, other food pantries that have distributions. They bring us the flyers. So it's being a hub or a center where families can come for information. A lot of this is provided by the city, but some of the families we serve don't always feel safe going to some of these government offices. I didn't realize it, but one of our partners shared information about a food distribution, and we sent it out to the families. And the families started to call because they thought that it was a possible ice sting, that they were being lured to then be entrapped. And so it's, when we look at that, it's what do these families need that we can provide that they're not willing to go elsewhere for.
Right.
So that's the next phase, I believe.
Yeah, we at Habitat, we say, and it sounds like you're seeing the same thing about, it's not a handout, it's a hand up.
Yes.
And when when, you know, families, parents, you know, individuals are able to know what the resources are and then how to access them, that's really when, you know, the magic happens about, you know, a community coming together to serve, you know, all our families.
Yes.
So, what are some of the success stories, whether they be families or some of your students at La Casa?
I would say a big one, it's just the partnerships that we have been able, they've been there, but been able to grow, and how together with other organizations, we've been able to make a bigger difference. That's been a huge success. I'll share one success. There's a young lady who volunteered. She graduated there from preschool many years ago. She's a recent graduate from UC Santa Barbara. And because of COVID, the whole situation on post-graduation employment is not the same as it used to be for the students. And so she volunteered, and she's going to be coming on part-time to help with the reopening. And so to me, it's a success story when someone who went there a long time ago has the heart to give back,
Yes,
make a difference, and now to be part of the institution. I think it's a success story.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the giving back, and you know, we see it as well, you know, at Habitat. You know, the families coming back, even though they've, you know, given their 500 hours already to building, you know, that they come back anyway. And it is a beautiful thing, as you said, and definitely a success. So speaking of, you know, a young woman who has been, you know, one of the success stories, I'm sure one of the many success stories of La Casa, we always want to ask it in our Women Build a Better World interviews about the women who have influenced you. And so who are some of your, your sheroes? Who have, whose shoulders do you stand on? Tell us about those mentors, those role models who have shaped you.
I have to share it. One of them is my very first boss. And I call her my surrogate mom. So the reason I call her my surrogate mom is my mom had very little education. And I don't know even if she tried, could maybe capture the emotion to really acknowledge what I've done with school, with a career, and some other achievements. And so this woman from the very beginning believed in me, gave me confidence, would mentor me. She's still my friend till this day.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so she would give me the encouragement, Velma, you can do it. I am so proud of you. You're smart. You can do this. You can do that, all along the way. And even through the dark times would give me the advice that I didn't want to hear, but that was necessary. And so she's always been there. And there's another lady who I would say 15 years ago we met, or over 15 years ago, but ever since we met, it has been there, encouraging, supporting, following the career track. And recently, she really pushed me and sponsored me to apply to this program I'm attending at USC. It's the Multicultural Women Executive Leadership Program. And so it's a tremendous gift because I now become part of a sisterhood of amazing women. And the tagline that we use is Together We Rise. And so we celebrate each other, we support each other, we hold each other. And so as much as it's about professional development, I think there's more personal development to it that allows us to excel as professional women. But I'm very fortunate. We have women in this sisterhood that are judges. And some of them, I knew them before they were in the program. They own their own construction companies. They're the chief executives of diversity, inclusion, and equity for the Cheesecake Factory. Just a great group of women. And the support is really phenomenal. They cheerlead us on and support us and encourage us, and with that we can do no wrong, or we cannot achieve. We have to achieve. Yeah, so they've been amazing.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like what a dynamic like a group to be a part of, and how fun how fun that must be, but also really challenging too. I mean, I'm assuming that there is, and if I'm wrong, like there's some level of accountability
oh, yes,
to each other as well.
There's the text, and you have the pressure. If you said you were going to do something, it's how are you doing? And the great thing is, this sisterhood, they're friends I had before going into the program. And so they know about the final project. I had one of my final projects due Monday. And did you get it in? How are you doing? Do you need help? But no, it's amazing. And in the same way as women have transitioned even further in their careers, they're a great network, great supporters, references, and somebody knows somebody, and things happen and they come together.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that coming together and unifying to, again, do something greater than had you just done it on your own. Mm-hmm. And I see that. I don't know, I'm assuming you've probably noticed this about your life too, that has also been another theme for you. That you've often tonight talked about networking or expanding the work among others, and helping each other, and I think that's for me, I'm like, oh, that's why she's, you know, such a successful interim executive director. She's, you know, a networker and obviously very passionate. And so I'm not surprised that La Casa has such a strong educational background, and, you know, and that you're like, how do we take that to the next level? I think that is absolutely wonderful. So, you know, right now, La Casa, education, food, it looks like also some health issues or accessing affordable health care. Those are all really critical elements to truly just a healthy life for those that you're serving and healthy development. So, and we also find in Habitat that also is what's needed, you know, good nutrition, good education, you know, health, and then, you know, to then really, you know, then have it all together under one roof. Ours just happens to be affordable housing. What's the housing situation for the people that you serve? And where, like, what is your vision for what you have for their housing? Are there, you know, what are the connections there for La Casa?
So with La Casa, what families have shared with us is many of them, most of them, like 90%, rent their home or live with a relative that owns a home. But the living situation that I consistently hear from many is where you have more than one family living in a house. So you'll have one family per bedroom. And so that's not healthy. It's not healthy for the children. It's not good. And so again, it's getting a better understanding about how we can help them, because if their income is limited, you know, is that really the only option? But sometimes it's looking at as their children are growing, how do we support the children to get jobs, to go to college, so that, you know, hopefully it doesn't take years, but they can transition out of multi-family housing in one house, which is really unfortunate. And, you know, right now with COVID, a couple of them have had a few situations where they were concerned with evictions, but because you have 3 families maybe to a house, somehow they're able to pull off paying the rent, versus if they had the burden of the entire rent to themselves.
Right. So it's almost a curse and a blessing right
yes.
now. Right.
Yes. And
so many in a house, but that's how they were able to afford rent. Wow, that is really tough. So what are there opportunities that you're seeing to help families as far as their housing goes, or what other ways are you addressing issues like that with the families?
So I think I shared earlier, we received information on some rent relief, so we shared some of that information for the families. But with the cost of housing right now, it's hard for me to say, oh, this is a very easy solution, right, in terms of how do you get them out of that living situation. Right. And it's tough. So it's going to take partnership, right, with other organizations. La Casa doesn't have to do it all, but it's work with those organizations like Habitat that can do that. You know, I know you do the sweat equity, but again, it's maybe educating the families on savings. I've been a little bit disconnected with homeownership programs, but what are the subsidies out there that families can access, so that they could possibly go into home ownership? But it's a tough one. with the housing situation. It's not
Oh,
a
yeah.
good one.
Yeah, and I think about how, like, you were focusing on, education, or La Casa was focusing on education, but really, like, what was the need? Right now, the need is, to overcome food insecurity. And, and unfortunately, housing, making sure people are getting, solid, foundation in education, those are problems that have persisted for a long time. And so I think, I am so grateful, not just I think, but I know I'm just so grateful that you are thinking about what's the next, level of not only need, but I love it that you want to educate and partner, because I really do think that's the only way. And I maybe I'm speaking, for San Gabriel Valley Habitat at the moment, but I think we realize that, yeah, it's the partnerships that are really going to make, education affordable or accessible, to all in the San Gabriel Valley. So affordable housing, it's going to take that same, that thinking differently and thinking, both and interconnecting with other, nonprofits. And I'm sorry that that you see that it's like, oh, this is a really big issue, and it's not, there's no easy answer.
No.
And so the part of me is like, oh, you see that too, like with what you're doing. So it's like,
but I shared in my career, I worked with the corporate, and I saw how Citigroup would have homeownership programs where they would have down payment assistance, and then they work with the cities maybe for matching, and the nonprofits to do the home buyer education. I think that these issues that we're facing in our community, that's how we need to tackle them. We need to come together and look at what everyone can bring to the table to support these families and transition them.
Well, wonderful. So, oh my gosh, this has flown. So I don't know, audience, if any of you have questions. It looks like, let's see. If you have any questions, feel free to send them in now, but I'm going to read some of the comments. We have one from Flora, who says, I love your accomplishments towards education and how you adapted your organization with COVID. I would love to know what inspires your passion for the community.
Our communities are an extension of our home. It's where we live. And it's about making communities better. I have to say, I learned that from City. They would always tell us, City, making communities better because we're there. And it sort of stuck with me. But when I was little, I'll go back to my mom. My mom would always tell us that we had to be of service. So growing up, 7, 8 years old, that was first, second grade, was able to already know some English and write letters and numbers. And I remember going to the community health clinics, and people did not know how to write, and they didn't know how to read English. And my mom would have me and my sister sit in a chair, and we would have a line of families waiting for us to help them fill out their forms. And so I think it goes back from there. It's just, if you can help, you should help.
You do.
And my mom really drilled it in us. I mean, at 7 and 8, filling out forms for families at the doctors. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's, you do what you can to help. Yeah. And so it sounds like your mom is one of those people who helped you to have that servant heart, and eventually get you ready to be executive director.
Yes, and I was just gonna say that if we help each other be in a better place, I think we make it a better world and everyone's happier. And if we could just spread more love instead of hate,
Yes.
the world would be a better place. So it's about making our world a better place for all. I have grandkids, so it's like, how can I leave this world a better place for when they grow up?
No, absolutely. Oh yeah, I mean, I really do think, that like it comes to, I don't know if that's vocation or calling, but yeah, wanting to positively influence the world. And even if it's just our little world or our San Gabriel Valley, that we do, right? That the world was better because you ran La Casa, that Mark Van Loo ran San Gabriel Valley Habitat. And that leads me to another one of the questions. This is really fun. It says, question for Velma. If you could create 2 successful partnerships from thin air to empower the families of La Casa, what would they be?
Oh my goodness, that one. It shouldn't take me this long to answer it.
Because you're like, because I wanted about 20, not 2.
No, I think it would go back to getting a partnership with a funder that's willing to support those supportive services or programs that transition people out of poverty.
Yes.
And so what does that look like? We talked about housing or trades. It's just, it's so much that's needed. But it would be those supportive services. Sometimes funding is so targeted to a specific that they don't always fund operating costs, and we don't realize that it's people that make things happen. So we need the volunteer coordinator, or we need the specialist, the housing specialist that can help our families find housing, apply for Section 8, put them in a better place. I'm not answering that question well, but
no, it sounds like partnerships
services
that have those that can fund supportive and assistive and assistance to your families to get them out of poverty, or to stop that cycle of poverty
it's breaking that cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. All right. Let's see. Here's another lovely question that kind of bounces right off of what we were just talking about. What's the best way to help support La Casa?
Right now, because the school is closed and so much funding is being completely redirected to COVID, it's with financial support. That right now would be a huge help, without dismissing the fact that we still need food donations, that we still need the volunteers, but just doing some of the upgrades to La Casa so we can operate the school again. It's going to require resources. Reopening at a reduced occupancy for the school. The teachers still have their same costs, but less students, and so there's less revenue to offset those costs. So I would say monetary contributions, and if individuals know of potential partnerships, resources, relationships they can introduce people, that would be the second. So financial support, and then just human capital or access to resources to make things happen.
Right, and for our audience that's listening, once we wrap this up, Francis will be sharing ways that you can connect to La Casa. So I want to make sure, I'm going to give that a little early plug. All right, now here is a great question. It says, Velma, have you thought about getting into politics? We need women like you in public leadership roles. Yes, we do. What do you think about that, Velma?
You know what?
Anything tonight?
No, there are great women out there that are working on that, and I think that there's a place for many of us where we can serve in different roles. I've thought about it.
Good.
But to run for office or hold an elected position, you really need a strong support of family, what have you. And not that I don't have it, but right now my youngest son is 16.
Oh, yeah.
And I need to see him through. And he has some special needs.
Oh, okay.
And so I always say charity starts at home. We need to take care of home so that we don't need the services we're providing out there. And but I thought about it. So maybe when he's off to college and of age, maybe that'll be the time that I reconsider it.
Right. Oh my gosh. Wow. All right. So there we go. You heard it here, folks. Keep our fingers crossed. Light our candles that Velma considers running for office. That's wonderful. All right. Well, we have about 5 more minutes, so I want to make sure I give proper thanks and kudos and props. Velma, you are amazing and inspiring. And I don't know about anyone else. I can't tell how anyone else is feeling in the audience or what they're thinking in the audience, but by the number of questions and just the encouragement, I think you've really touched all of our hearts and inspired us to be better. Oh, here's one more comment. It says Velma is, and then in all caps, terrific with multiple exclamation points. Yes, so agreed. Velma, you are something else, lady, and we are so blessed and happy to have you be part of our Habitat family, part of our Women Build family, and I know we are looking forward to seeing what the future holds for our partnerships or our partnership together. So thank you again, and I'm going to say, can you please let us now welcome Frances Hardy, San Gabriel Habitat very own Director of Resource Development. Take it away, Frances.
Well, thanks so much, Leah, and thank you, Velma. Tonight really was just such a treat, and it's amazing to hear, Velma, what you are doing all across the San Gabriel Valley to really meet families where they are at and to help them get to the next level. We really believe at Habitat that partnership is what it's all about. So it's great to hear that you're extending that partnership to so many families in your community, and we're just thrilled to have been able to partner with La Casa ourselves, and we certainly look forward to that continuing. So I am going to bring us home. I'm going to wrap us up this evening. As Leah said, my name is Frances Hardy, and I'm the Director of Resource Development here at San Gabriel Valley Habitat. So I am going to share what I call calls to action. So talk is great, discussions are wonderful, they empower us and they excite us, and they're often what we need to go out and take action. And the action is what solidifies our learning. The action is our way of showing the world, yep, we've got it, and now we're going to do something about it. So first and foremost, it's the last action, but I'll start off with it, is, Velma and La Casa are doing fabulous work, and we want everyone connected with Habitat to learn more about what they're doing to make families' lives better, what they are doing to build successful children and parents and grandparents. So please, we'll be sending out links after this. We'll also be sending out a link to this entire recorded webinar, so you can share it with a friend, maybe a prospective partner for La Casa, or you can head directly over to lacasacommunitycenter.org and get involved that way. So I'm working my way from the bottom up. Second, I want to invite you back in 1 month for our very last Women Build a Better World interview. So we run this throughout the year, and September's will be our last webinar for the year, so you don't want to miss it. We have some really special guests lined up, and at the end of the day, this webinar series is about inspiring us and helping us to take action, because we really can make a difference. We can end the housing crisis, we can end food insecurity, we can make early childhood education, something that is available to all children. And we can do that when we interview fabulous folks like Velma and when we feature other women. So don't miss it, come back. It's not on the slide, but I'll make a quick plug for the final event that is the culmination of our Women Build movement, and that is on October 3rd. So due to COVID-19, we have decided to take Women Build virtual, but there will still be a lot of impact, a lot of great volunteerism going on that day. So please don't miss that. There will be registration links shortly available. So Saturday, October 3rd, you may have said August, Saturday, October 3rd, please save the date. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And if you want, you could even put on a hard hat like the one pictured in the photo below. And then to take us home, we have a matching campaign going on thanks to two wonderful partners, Pacific Premier Bank and Royal Business Bank. And so when you make a donation to support Women Build, to support the webinar series, and ultimately to support the families who are partnering with Habitat to build and repair a place to call home, your donation will be doubled. So if you make a donation of $20, it'll become 40, 100, 200, 500, it'll become 1,000. So please do take advantage of that. That expires September 30th, so it's just here for a limited time. So with that, I want to share my thanks again to Velma, to our very own Dr. Schuler, and to everyone who attended tonight. Together, we can change the San Gabriel Valley, and we can change it for the better. So see you back on the 16th, and for all of the other tremendous things taking place. Take care. Bye-bye.